Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. This episode is the episode of Champions, as it is just Anthony and I. Dave is at the cottage, and we'll be back in, I believe, a couple episodes' time. I know when he hears this, he's going to be upset that I haven't memorized the dates, but it was Dave and I for a couple episodes. Now it's Anthony and I for a couple episodes.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? I'm back and glad to be back.
So we're gonna jump right into headlines. Anthony is gonna hit us with those.
Yeah, so not too much big news, but just some hype, if you will, and some injury updates. So I'm gonna start off with maybe an interesting one for most of the people doing their drafts soon. Waller's ankle injury, not concerning. I know there was a lot of confusion regarding what his issues were or are. Not that extreme. Nobody should worry about it. Jordan Love getting his shoulder checked, got his shoulder checked earlier in the week, but the results came back clean. He should be okay. Only really matters for dynasty leagues. So, yeah. And I mean, he didn't play too bad in the preseason either. So, I guess my faith in him is kind of restored. Anthony Miller had a shoulder dislocation. We'll get an MRI, but I mean, Houston has like a million wide receivers. So does it really matter? No, I guess for Anthony Miller, it's pretty concerning because he's trying to fight his way onto a team and it's not looking good for him right now to make the team.
Well, it's better news for anyone who is a Kiki Kuti truther.
Yeah, exactly. Like yourself.
Hey, he had flashes, but it's unfortunate now with the Texans quarterback situation. We might not get to see him break out.
Yeah,
again,
the guy needs to make it on another team or get traded or something because I think he's a talent as well and could be successful somewhere else. Washington releases Lamar Miller. Does anyone care? No. Did we think he was going to make the team? Probably not. So it's going to be
harsh words.
Yeah, harsh words. But I mean, he's past his prime. He served his purpose already in fantasy. And I mean, he's just trying to make it on to a team. But if he does, he's kind of like a Jordan Howard and is just going to be like a third string. So right now, Washington, it's Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick are the only two you really care about. Some interesting news for coming out of the preseason games that happened this week. Malcolm Brown starts over Myles Gaskin, and he didn't look too bad. I did watch this game. Concerned at all? Or
I don't think so. Well, I think the fact that they started him over Myles Gaskin means that Myles Gaskin's probably the starter. You know, they don't.
Yeah, he did get some reps in after, and then so it started with Malcolm Brown. Gaskin got a few touches in later on in the quarter, and then they started using, forgive me if I say it wrong, Salvon Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's his first name.
Yeah.
He looked pretty good too. So I think it's going to be running back by committee. There's three of them there. They seem to all serve their purpose. I think it's going to be kind of like the Rams, like how Malcolm Brown was used on the Rams. You'll have a couple, 2 or 3 weeks where he's probably going to seem like he's the lead back and dominate for the running back position for their team. And then, another week it'll be Gaskin, and then another week it'll be...
What about your boy Patrick Laird? Is there room for old Patrick?
Patrick Laird, I think he's still on the team, so he's there for now, but maybe it's unlikely that he makes the team this year. I'm going to go over to some Chargers news. Hold
on. You have to preface this with all the preseason comments we made rolling into the Chargers headlines.
How so? Like, what do you mean?
Well, are you about to do the Mike Williams headline?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we said, the hype, fantasy is starting when the Mike Williams hype starts. And now we know we're close to the season because of the headline you're about to present.
Yeah. So but actually, I think you guys mentioned it on the episode that I wasn't there about he was having hip issues again,
Mhm.
and now it has come out that the Chargers are unlikely to extend Mike Williams this season. Are we surprised? No. They probably anticipate a big year for him, but with already the injury issues, they're probably fed up. And
That's it.
you've mentioned, I think it was on the sleeper episode, you mentioned a couple of their undrafted wide receivers that could stand out this year,
Yeah, well,
especially for
they have three young wide receivers now, and they just drafted Josh Palmer, who by
right.
all accounts is doing amazing in camp.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean,
Mike
people don't
Williams'
get,
hype will have to go somewhere else.
yeah, again, we're telling you, do not draft Mike Williams. I know Herbert's there. Pick somebody else on the team. Pick one of the young receivers that Moose has talked about in previous episodes. And then Chargers, it also came out that the Chargers will use a variety of running backs, and Justin Jackson apparently might have the stranglehold on the number 2 spot. And for those of you who don't know, Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree are the backups. Roundtree looked pretty decent in the preseason game, but I mean, Joshua Kelly looked good last year. Dave was
Dave.
super high on him. And I mean, Justin Jackson's been there for forever, hasn't taken work away from Melvin Gordon, Roman numeral 2 when he was there, or Eckler. So I think Eckler, don't be worried about Eckler. You worried at all?
I don't know. Dave and I talked a little bit at length about this, and for no real reason, I just always avoid Austin Eckler. I don't know why. He's talented. We've seen him. Well, we saw him succeed in I guess a timeshare with Melvin Gordon last year when he was going to take on a much bigger role and be the bell cow. Obviously, he had a season-ending injury, which was disastrous. So for
Yeah.
me, maybe I still want to see a bit more. I always feel cautious around Austin Eckler. So I think Justin Jackson's a great handcuff to have in
Yeah.
the event that there's an unfortunate injury again.
Yeah, it's interesting because he was always the handcuff to have to Melvin Gordon. And when Melvin Gordon held out, that's when Eckler obviously had his big season. Helped me win a championship. I had both Melvin Gordon and Eckler, so I covered my butt when I kept Melvin Gordon in our keeper league. And I mean, the season after he gets injured, so he hasn't really debuted as the clear-cut number 1. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I know I kept him again in our keeper league, and I hope for big things. But I understand the nervousness around him because he hasn't really proven himself yet. But yeah, I would still encourage people to draft him, especially in half-point PPR or PPR leagues.
Well, that's it. Like I wouldn't encourage people not to draft him, but
Yeah,
you always say
back
you
end.
gotta follow your gut feelings, and my gut feeling around him is
Yeah.
I don't want him on my team. I don't know why.
There's
Just
probably a lot of running backs in the
is.
same tier. It's all about preference at that point. Yeah. I'll rattle off a few. Rashod Bateman had core muscle surgery. He should be back sometime in September. No clear cut dates. We don't know how many games he's going to miss, but this sucks.
Well, he had groin surgery, so I can't imagine that heals quick.
No. So not very good for, I guess, Lamar Jackson's passing yards, or so. I mean, Mark Andrews is the clear cut lead receiver for the team. So I mean,
Well,
Mark Andrews' stock for tight ends should be up there.
I mean, I would say based on past years, that's a correct statement. But Sammy Watkins is there.
True. But it's just I know he'll probably go off a couple games. I think he's going to be like the Deshaun Jackson, where you'll have a huge play, he'll have like an 80-yard touchdown, and then go down hard and then limp off the field. But hopefully not. What else we got? We got Curtis Samuel back from the PUP list, so this should be interesting. Hopefully he'll get a few reps in the preseason games. We can see what he has to offer. Phillip Lindsay presumed starter over David Johnson in on the Texans. So this is interesting because I know you and I like Lindsay, and he's young, he's super talented, and for
Yep.
some reason they just Denver never gave him the opportunity to be the lead back. They went out and got Melvin Gordon, but I like this. I think he could be a sneaky pick in a draft.
The problem is that Phillip Lindsay is not a bell cow back, and Denver did try to get him to carry the workload when Royce Freeman didn't pan out.
Right.
And Phillip Lindsay did not have a good time.
No.
He is he's very much a very productive pass catching back who needs to be in a timeshare, in my opinion. So maybe it'll work out between him and Mark Ingram. Maybe they'll have a real good dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah, nothing's really exciting about the Texans, so it's hard to pump that up. But I don't think it's a terrible situation. Like if you end up drafting Phillip Lindsay probably later in the drafts, I think he's he's a great running back to have to fill in on bye weeks, or should you find yourself needing to replace a running back on your team.
For sure. And then 3 more headlines, running back news. Cardinals placed 4 players, including James Conner, on the reserve COVID-19 list. I mean, there's enough time before the regular season. I don't know his situation, whether he's double vaxxed or not, or who the outbreak was from, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, my understanding was I don't think any of them had symptoms or were tested positive. It was precautionary because of a close contact situation.
Okay. Yeah, so we're not too worried about that. It's still preseason, so there's plenty of time to recover if there were a serious issue. Derrius Guice, some nobody cares news, suspended 6 weeks of the regular season for off the field issues. Nobody's drafting him anyways. If you have him in Dynasty, you can just get rid of him. Don't expect anything.
Yeah.
And then some final news, J.K. Dobbins. This one I wasn't aware of. He had 0 yards. Is that what it was in the preseason?
Yeah, I believe that's what the headline said. He was held to no yards.
No yards. Again, preseason, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I did watch a bit of that game. The big takeaway from Baltimore was their defense looked pretty good offensively. They didn't have any of the big names really playing. Yeah, so that's it for the headlines. I mean, I caught up a bit today since, I came back from PI yesterday. I didn't get time to watch the games when I was on vacation, but watched a few games that were important to me and maybe important to our like keeper league drafts or main leagues. So the Denver game, Javonte Williams looks good. They used him in the red zone. I mean, he looks explosive. So I think he's going to be the guy. I think he'll be like the Travis Etienne league winner type situation where I think at the start of the season, Melvin Gordon will get in his reps as well and, play well in his second year over there. But I think Javonte Williams will definitely take over midway through the season or maybe even earlier. And KJ Hamler looks real good. Jerry Jeudy did not. I mean, he's getting all the attention, but I have a feeling Jerry Jeudy is going to be the bust on that team. He's the most talented guy there, but I don't know. It's just there are some passes that I think he should come down with, and he's just not doing it. So, I mean, it's preseason. I want to see a couple more games out of him, but I would worry about Jerry Jeudy. And then Taysom Hill did not look impressive at all.
Good.
I don't think he's going to start. They had him sitting more in the pocket. Did not look good. If you're going to put him at quarterback, I mean, have him, take the model of Lamar Jackson. Have him run most of the time because it does not look very good.
Well, that's kind of good news for any Camaro owners. Because the big concern was that Taysom Hill would vulture touchdowns, but if Jameis is looking better, then it's good news for Camaro owners.
Oh, and speaking of the New Orleans Saints, I just wanted to mention this. This is maybe for deep leagues or dynasty leagues. I I know you were saying that maybe Devontae Freeman might take over for Latavius Murray as the second running back.
I said if he was fit and healthy,
right.
I think he definitely could.
But I think the guy on New Orleans to take note of is Tony Jones Jr. This guy looked real good. So, I mean, I don't know if it's just he's trying to make his spot on the team, so he's just putting in the extra effort. I don't know what it is, but I think I'm going to look for him in the second preseason game. But he looked real good. And then Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson looked pretty good. So I think it'll be exciting to see these rookies this year. Hopefully, I think Mac Jones. I'm with you now. I think Mac Jones might start the season.
Yeah, I told you he has he has the most opportunity to start because I don't know, man. Cam is declining, and I don't know. He's got talent. He can run. He can run that ball in. But I just think having you might as well just get that young quarterback out there now instead of having a half season where you aren't as successful and then you bring the new guy in and he's rusty because he didn't just start the whole season. So I hope, as a Patriots fan, I hope they just rip the Cam Newton Band-Aid off and just fire up Mac Jones.
If they think they have a legit chance with all the moves they made to make the playoffs, they definitely should start with Mac Jones. And if you want to throw Cam Newton in like a Taysom Hill type situation to run in like some touchdowns because you don't, let's say if there's issues with the running backs, then I mean, do so. But I think Mac Jones should definitely start. Yeah. And I mean, Dalton, going over to the Bears now, Dalton, I mean, he had 2 drives, didn't really do much with it. Fields, it took a while. I think 3 drives before he actually got going. But then when he did, he looked very good. So I don't know. I think Dalton should still start unless like he doesn't look that great in their second preseason game and Fields does what he did in the first game. But just some noteworthy things I want to mention before we get into our main segments. Yeah. So
all right. So those are the headlines.
Yeah.
All right. So
done.
We're continuing our top 12 and top 24 lists. So today we're doing quarterbacks and tight ends. So Anthony, well, I guess you've listened to the episode. So I'm going to list off the top 12 quarterbacks. And then, we'll discuss which ones we predict will be in there in the top 12 and which ones will be out of the top 12. And then we'll do 13 to 24.
But QBs and tight ends, we only do top 12. That's what we...
Okay, so we'll just do top 12 then.
We'll just do top 12 because we're going to do QBs and tight ends today.
All right, so here's the top 12 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Let's make sure I have it in correct order here. We have Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, and Matt Ryan at 12. So what's the first name that you think? Well,
out.
I think we can say until the Deshaun Watson situation clears up, he is out of there.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I don't think the list is going to change that much. Dave agrees with me on the next 2. Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan, I think, are going to be out of there.
Yeah, big time. I would also agree with that.
I think everybody else will kind of be mixed in there somewhere, and then so 3 new people in for me.
Oh, the 2 people that I think are going to be in, and I know this will be a surprise to our longtime listeners, but Derek Carr. Derek Carr might squeeze in there, like at 12. Like he would be the 12th.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm really getting hyped up. I'm getting hyped up about Bryan Edwards and obviously Darren Waller. I think they're gonna have a very strong offense. If they can pull it all together, I think they could have a monster season.
Yeah, because you're hyped on
Bryan Edwards.
Bryan Edwards. I was going to say Braylon Edwards, blast from the past. Interesting.
And I
Okay.
mean, Derek Carr, he finished 13th last year.
He did.
You
So
know, so I don't. It's not impossible that he squeaks up one more spot to 12.
yeah. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like you took me by surprise there, because now at least each of us have had, because we all agree the three guys that are going to be out of there. I don't know if you agree with the other two. So Dave and me think that Stafford and Dak make it in, but then Dave's third one is Jalen Hurts, of course, because he's really high on him, and mine is Joe Burrow. And I'm not very comfortable or happy with that pick, because I do think maybe a rookie might get in there, like a Trevor Lawrence even.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Well, obviously Dak Prescott's in there. I forgot because he was injured last season.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he's healthy, he's for sure. He's in top 5. And same with Matt Stafford on that Rams offense.
Yeah.
For sure, top 12, no problem. And Joe Burrow actually was my other one as well. Last season, I mean, he was doing well for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
So same thing. As long as that knee is healthy again this season, I don't see why he couldn't make a play to be up there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just feel comfortable choosing him as my third guy to go in, because, like I said, the other people that I maybe have in mind are like a guy like Trevor Lawrence, but he's a rookie, so I think it might take him midway through the season to get comfortable. And I mean, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, these guys, Jimmy Garoppolo, like I think some of these guys might do well for their teams, but not worthy of making it in to the top 12. So I guess that's pretty, like, I'm interested to see Carr, because I know in one of my older leagues, I think it was Derek Carr's second season where he played super well. And I was like, oh, he's good. His rookie season wasn't too great, but I have a feeling with the team around him, he was going to do well. He held me to a championship, but since then it's kind of been up and down, more downs. But
and like I said, he's not going to be at the top of the
right
12. He'll be 12
in there.
Yeah, he'll be 12.
And the only other team, whichever quarterback they choose, that I think might mess up our list is if Jameis Winston starts for the New Orleans Saints, that even if he still throws a lot of interceptions, might make his way in there.
Yeah, but the wide receiver room there is looking like a mess. So even though he'll be launching passes, I'm not sure who's going to be there to catch it. Who's going to be healthy all season. So I don't disagree with that statement, but the wide receiver right now is just too much of a question mark for me to jump on that ship.
And I guess when we get to our beer bet episode, it'll be, I guess, more, we'll stamp it in the sand there. But who do you think will be the number 1 QB finisher this year? Because I was the winner last year. I picked Josh Allen. I think you had picked, I think you or Dave picked Kyler Murray.
I picked Dak Prescott.
You picked Dak. And he was on his way there.
He was on his way. And I'll stick with Dak again.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's a better offense.
Yeah. I think I might go Kyler Murray this year.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I think Kyler could be really solid.
But then again, if Patrick Mahomes is healthy all season, Patrick Mahomes will probably find his way to the top.
They're all so close.
Yeah.
All right, should we move over to tight ends?
Oh yeah. Give it to me.
All right, one sec. Let me switch up my player list here. Tight ends. Okay, here we go. So the top 12 tight ends, starting with Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Robert Tonyan, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Logan Thomas, Mike Gesicki, Rob Gronkowski, Hayden Hurst, Jonnu Smith, Jimmy Graham, and Noah Fant at 12.
Ooh, baby. So
man, there is I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people who could be in, a lot of people who could be out.
Right.
So first things first, let's since George Kittle was injured most of last season, no questions asked, he's going to be in the top 12.
Right. Dave and I agree.
Well, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, so let out of these top 12, who do you have out? I have for sure Hayden Hurst out, Jimmy Graham out.
Yep.
And that's probably it for me. I think those are the only two I could see. Well, maybe Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. So Jimmy Graham, you said Jimmy Graham, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, Jonnu Smith. Did you say Jonnu?
Well, actually, no. I was actually pretty pumped watching Jonnu Smith, but now he has an ankle injury. So yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, I see him in the top 12. But if it's worse, because Hunter Henry is also now injured.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's healthy, he's in there for sure.
So for me, I had 4 guys out. I had Dave convinced me of one. I originally only had 3 out. I had Hayden Hurst, Jonnu Smith, Jimmy Graham out of there. But now Dave has convinced me to go Gronkowski. I'm not happy that he's tricked me with it, but there are guys that he picked to go in that I do think.
But we're not necessarily like replacing one for the other kind of thing. But I get it because we've spoken a lot about there's going to be too many targets in Tampa Bay, But for a tight end, he's probably still going to be getting more of a workload than most of these other tight ends. So I still think he cracks the top 12, no problem.
Yeah. So for now, I'm leaning more towards So we'll start with Dave because Dave, I think, has the most controversial one of the 3 of us. So he has Robert Tonyan out of there, which I very much disagree with because Aaron Rodgers complains about not having the receivers he wants and building, or building trust with his receivers. So he built the trust was there with Robert Tonyan last season. Like you mentioned, he finished 3rd. So I really don't see Robert Tonyan out of the top 12. Even if he doesn't play as well, I think he'll sneak in there.
Yeah, and I think the caution is because he was touchdown dependent. So I think sure, the caution for drafting Ryan Tonyan on your fantasy team is there because he is touchdown dependent. But again, if we're talking just top 12, he'll be in the top 12 because of those touchdowns by the end of the season.
Yeah. I do think his touchdowns will drop. I think his yards will go up a little bit. And where he's being drafted later in drafts, I mean, he's a value there for a number 3 tight end. Tight ends, it's very hard to hit on them. And when they are super productive one year, they're not usually the year after, unless your name is Kelsey, Waller, or Kittle and Andrews even. So, I mean, like I said, I don't see him being in the top 5, but I see him being there. And yeah, so Dave had him. Then he had Gronkowski, Hurst, Jonnu, and Graham out of there. And he had... So I don't know for you, but I had Pitts in there making it in.
Yeah.
He had Pitts as well. We said Kittle. I have Kmet in there. Dave has Kmet in there over Jimmy Graham. He looked good also in his he wasn't out there for very long in the preseason game, but he did look explosive. He tried to hurdle over a defender. The defender caught him in the air, but he came down on his feet. So he's very sturdy and he's very athletic and mobile as well. So he's not one of these like boxy tight ends where you feel that every time they get hit hard, they're going to get injured or something. So yeah, he'll make it in there. And the reason why I went with Dave on Gronkowski being out, because one of the guys that he had in there was Higbee. And I know, or is Higbee. And I know with Matthew Stafford, who I'm super high on, on LA now, I think Higbee will be productive because, again, we're not sure with Cooper Kupp and his health. I heard you guys talking about Robert Woods, and you value him maybe higher than the Dave and I, because you said Woods could make it into the top 12 for receivers.
Oh, for sure. With Matthew Stafford there, big time.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel that he's getting older and that maybe he's just going to like level out. He's the reliable target, but I have a feeling that maybe Stafford might build a rapport with maybe Cup and Higbee, providing the Cup is healthy.
It's possible. I like Tyler Higbee. I mean, I like Tyler Higbee last season as well because Jared Goff always favored the tight end. I think Matthew Stafford does as well, and Tyler Higbee's shown that he can be productive in fantasy. And there's a few because you could list. I mean, this is the thing. You never know what's going to happen with tight ends, but I'm looking at guys like there's so much hype around Irv Smith. He could be in there if the hype is real. He's in there. Maybe a little dark horse name. I know we made fun of this guy quite a bit last season. He was traded from the Cardinals to Carolina Panthers. Yeah. Dan Arnold. He's a really tall, athletic tight end, and I think the Darnold to Arnold connection is going to be a real thing.
Yeah, he could be a sneaky one.
Yeah, he's someone I would definitely keep my eye on. And I think I had a third one here. I had a
maybe this will help you out. Dave also had Gerald Everett.
Gerald Everett was the last one, yeah.
So I think that also benefits Higbee, going back to Higbee, because Everett's not there anymore. So Higbee's the main tight end over there. And Everett on, of course, now the Seahawks, who loves the tight end position. I mean, and we've seen successful tight ends over there, like make it into the top 12. So, I mean, he's definitely a candidate.
Yeah. And someone to watch in preseason is Blake Jarwin.
Yeah.
On the Cowboys. Dalton Schultz. Remember we had the big conversation. Is it Schultz or is it Jarwin? Schultz now has an ankle injury. So it would seem that Blake Jarwin will take a bit of a step up in being the starter. So see how he is in preseason. Exactly. He's coming off a knee injury as well. So let's see if he's healed up and looking good.
Yeah. But after the Dallas game, Schultz did look good. So if it's not that serious, I would still say hold off on Jarwin. But I'm interested, if Schultz doesn't play the next game, I'm interested to see Jarwin. Everybody was high on him before he got injured last season. So I'm interested to see him too. But yeah, I'm just going to stick with Pitts, Kittle, Kmet, and Higbee making it in and keeping I'll take Gronkowski out and I'll throw in Everett as well. I like that. And Dave threw in Troutman. I know Dave is super high on Troutman. I'm super against it because I think Troutman will be, even though they don't know who they're going to be throwing to on that team, I do think Troutman will be more of a blocking tight end. Of course, he'll get more catches, which is to be expected with the talent that they have in the receiving core. But I don't think it's enough to make him get into the top 12.
Yeah, I'm not very high on Troutman either.
This is his Hayden Hurst of this year, but I mean he did win the beer bet. Hayden Hurst snuck in there.
He squeaked in.
But I don't think Troutman will. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I think this was the easier two positions to maybe disagree less on. The Tonyan one, I mean, was kind of weird to me, that especially with Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay.
And Aaron Rodgers has said before that he loves Tonyan.
Yeah. And Tonyan is always, well, for Sleeper at least, he's listed as wide receiver tight end, which means he'll get in there more, not just as a tight end, but playing a wide receiver as well. So I'm excited about Tonyan. He's going late. If I decide to, depending where I fall in certain leagues and in the draft, if I don't get some of the top guys like Kelsey Waller, Mark Andrews, or
TJ
Hawkinson, like guys like that, I think Tonyan could be a sneaky later tight end pick. I'm not too high on the bottom half of the top 12 for tight ends, but
it's a huge drop off.
Yeah, but if I can say one thing, also Mike Gesicki, I think might have a similar season to last year. Tua favored heavily the tight end position in the preseason game, not just Mike Gesicki, but Adam Shaheen, and there was another tight end as well, but Gasecki had a couple big plays. So I think Tua's going to look to him a lot. So I think, yeah, he's going to be an interesting one if you want to look for a tight end later in the draft.
I agree. All right, so we're moving on to our next segment.
Oh, yeah.
Are you gonna attempt this, or should I attempt this?
I want you to attempt it.
Yeah, I feel like if I have to do to channel my best inner Dave here.
You got some water? I don't know. You want to clear the
me. Here we go. They said it on Reddit.
Ooh,
how was that?
It was pretty good. I like it. I think it was a good stand-in for Dave. All right. So this
I feel like maybe you should take a stab at it too, so I'm not the only one.
Oh goodness, it's not going to go well. As you can hear, my voice is very low right now. All right. Oh no, you see, I can't even. They said it on Reddit.
Oh, that was a little different taste.
A different taste. You know, a quick recovery from that that voice. It's making it sound like I'm going through puberty. All right, so this one's coming from user L Laminated 34. What's the biggest mistake people make at the draft? In your opinion, what's the biggest mistake made at the draft that ruins a team in the end? I think people worry too much about getting their starting lineup set rather than getting the best value at their pick. Neglecting your bench is really bad for your team, especially when COVID, while likely make this year unpredictable again. Do you agree with him?
Well, no, I mean, generally I tend to disagree because I'm all about racking up the most points you can at every position. So, I mean, depending on where, you know, this user thinks it's, you know, if you've gone too long trying to, I mean, I don't think getting the best at every position is the worst, but he's right. You know, you do have to, you know, make sure that you do have value on your bench as well. There's different ways to look at it though, because so for example, there's in most leagues, there's no prize for second place. No. So you might as well get the best possible team you can and take your shot. And if you lose, you lose, you know, and you use the waiver wire to fill in the gaps where you can. But you know, everybody has a different strategy. You know, you like waiting for a quarterback and it's worked out for you. And some people, you know, zero running back strategy. So I think in terms of how you draft players, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. There's so many factors in a season that can, you know, just derail any perfect strategy. However, I think that going into a draft unprepared, not doing a couple of mock drafts and not getting a list of names that you want to target, I think is how you are setting yourself up to fail. You know, being when it comes to you and you have you know, a minute on the clock and you're there going, okay, let me see who I'm gonna pick. Now you're cutting into your into your pick time. You know, you might miss it and in the auto draft some garbage player that you didn't want. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make is not sort of making a list of players you're trying to target and or have your strategy written down. Like, okay, it's the third round, I'm picking up a wide receiver. And that way, you know, okay, and I was targeting this guy. He's there. Boom, I got him.
Yeah, and this is why I think for reasons like that I value the Q tab in your draft, because if there are people you're targeting, you can slot them in there, because I know a lot of people check rankings out from different platforms or other sites, and then it's different when you draft on another platform than the ones that you've been looking at the rankings in. So it's just like to keep an eye on players. And I mean, getting back to filling your roster or filling up your bench first, it seems like he would rather fill his bench, but you've mentioned before that getting a great kicker or a great defense, it could help you control that position like you would for tight ends, which is why you have been a big advocate for drafting like the top 3 tight ends as early as you can. For me, the only disagreement with him talking about this strategy is you have to know how your draft goes. So for me, if depending where I draft, once it gets later in the draft, I might feel that it might be better to draft my kicker and defense earlier than the other people, maybe set that trend and make other people start drafting that way before filling my bench, because I know sometimes kickers, it's hard to predict, but I mean, it's not hard to predict for the guys that are always up there, like the Justin Tuckers, like you mentioned, Harrison Butker.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go down and score all the time. And the defense is like, we know it's usually like the same teams up there. You're looking for teams that have that create a lot of turnovers. So there are there are players that are every year going to lead in that category for interceptions or forced fumbles and all that stuff. You want to look for the teams with those players. So I mean, it all depends how your draft goes, but I wouldn't say necessarily fill your bench before you fill your starting roster. Um, it all depends on strategy and where you're drafting. So, just yeah, I mean, just know your league.
Yeah, and I would say one of the other things that'll completely derail your draft is if you're not paying attention to how many of each position you drafted. So, for example, let's say you take 2 running backs, and then you get all hyped up picking a quarterback, tight end, a couple wide receivers, and then next thing you know, you find yourself at the end of the draft, and you look back and you go, "Oh my goodness, I only drafted 2 running backs."
Yeah.
You're gonna find yourself in big trouble. With wide receivers, I think it's a little bit different because especially this season, it's so deep at wide receiver, so you can be a little I guess maybe more cautious with getting a couple less wide receivers if you wanted to stock up more on running backs or backup QB, backup tight ends. People like to do that, but definitely not paying attention to the positions you've drafted is a big mistake.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I was mentioning too for like the kickers and defense. So it's follow the round trends or what people are missing on their team, because whether you're in Superflex or 2 QB leagues or standard or half point PPR or PPR, if you're at the turnaround and you're in a super flex league and you're at the 12th spot, and you have your 2 picks, and then you're like, I'll wait on QB and stuff like that. You draft a running back, you draft a wide receiver, and then just right after you a bunch of QBs go, then it's kind of like you've kind of set yourself not up for failure because you don't win your league at the draft, but you're behind. You're at a disadvantage at that position that goes, and that's why we express all the time that it's important to do mock drafts, because mock drafts you can see what would happen if I did that instead of do what I should be doing, like draft a quarterback. I'm speaking again in 2 quarterback or super flex leagues. If you draft a quarterback and a running back right away, what if I went running back, wide receiver? How many QBs would go on average? So you gotta pay attention to your league and how people are drafting as well, not just your own team.
Yeah, and I think I know you were saying that watch and see who gets drafted, so you know who's coming up. Watch the trends. That's good. You should be doing that. But one of the other strategies that I find will derail people is they're watching too much who the other teams are picking. And let's say somebody snipes your guy the round before you, and they get all emotional. Oh, you took my guy. Now you're kind of on tilt. Maybe you're going to make a bad decision. So that's it. I would say just focus on what's available to you. Someone sniped the player you really wanted. Well, that's how the game works. But don't let it derail your strategy and your focus.
Right.
Keep like I said, if you have your list of targets, you scratch that name off and you go, okay, well, this is the next best guy. I'm getting him. But sort of put the blinders on and don't be looking at everybody and be like, oh, he's got a better team. Oh, he's got a better team and he picked another running back. That means I need to take a running back. That's not necessarily how it's always going to pan out. So
best available player.
Yeah. So I would dial back the emotion on draft day and keep a cool head.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, don't expect your real draft to turn out like the mock drafts. That mock is just like, and that's why when we do these episodes with sleepers or Marquis de la mid round,
not bad.
we have several guys. Like we probably mentioned what I think we did 3 each when we did those episodes. I mean, we have more. I mean, we're sharing our info with the public, and I mean, for us 3. We have to be careful in our leagues because for sure, if people agree with us, they're going to try and snipe the players we want. So we have to have backups. So have your backups. Like I said, if you don't want to write them down on paper because it's too much to look at during your draft, use the player queue. It's on the screen with your draft. Providing, I know it might be a little bit more complicated if you're drafting from your phone, but I mean, try and draft from a desktop, and so you can see everything clearly. You can see more of the rankings instead of just a select few.
And I think that's a really good point, Anthony. I mean, it's a little bit outside of actual drafting, but try to get on a big screen. Try to have a big screen where you can have your notes typed up. You can have your platform in a big window, and you can see all the information clearly. So you're not, if you're on your phone, you're jumping between apps. There might be connection issues. That's the last thing you want, especially if your draft pick is a minute or less. You'd be surprised how quick a minute passes.
When
and you're doing a draft.
So that was what I was just gonna say. I think the biggest mistake that I've seen are people having the clock run out. So I know it's annoying to put a longer time limit, like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, because then the draft's just going to take forever. But I mean, pay attention to that time, because also some leagues, I don't know how it is in on some other platforms. I mean, but when the clock runs out, you go on auto draft, and I don't know how easy it is on the other apps or platforms to remove that, but it creates a lot of problems for yourself. So be aware of the clock.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that I think that's plenty of advice. If there was something more that you were looking for, shoot us a message, 3bfantasypod@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. We'll get back to you. We'll maybe go more in depth with you. Also, every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m., we do a live show on the Halftime Sports app where the listeners can participate in the conversation with us. So we can bring you on stage. We can meet you. We can talk about any subject that you want to talk about or questions, and we'll help you out where we can.
Yeah.
So Anthony, rolling into the what do we call this? The pop culture portion of this podcast?
Well, before the pop culture portion, the beers.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even have one.
So
I was so tired.
I
didn't have
covered.
One.
This is my second one. I didn't open it yet, but it's a Heineken.
It's a non-alcoholic Heineken.
No, it's alcoholic, 5%.
Because it doesn't. Oh, it's the Becks that have the blue label, right? It looked like a blue label from.
Oh no, it's just a clear label.
Okay.
So just a Heineken.
I forgot to have a beer.
Well, it's okay, because what I wanted to mention before we go into the pop culture segment. So we had our draft order party that we usually do every year at Moose's place, and of course Moose had to select the game because he won last year again for the third time. Just want to mention this is our episode of Champions, so Dave has still not won one. Sorry, Dave. And so I mean, it was super successful. I don't know if there was a special, just maybe to give ideas to other people that might be trying to figure out their draft orders. I don't know if there's a name for the game.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of names for it. It's been very popular on YouTube and social media as a summer game. I mean, at least I think it is, because it just started popping up all over social media on my feeds. But I've seen it called Tiki Ring Toss or Swing a Ring. And and well, because that we did a little 1 versus 1 version, but apparently it's always been like a popular bar game, but it's just one big ring that's attached to a rope, and the hook is on the wall, and you just sort of take turns swinging and trying to get it hooked on. So we did that. We did best of 2 and like in a tournament bracket style.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
So
and they're very easy to build.
Very easy to build. Yeah. Yeah. So kudos to Jess for building that. Um, and also, I guess our roles were reversed this year of where we're drafting. Moose is drafting at the front end.
Fourth.
I'm drafting 11th. My keepers are Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, I mean, Moose has won a couple times from the back end. I've won my one championship from the first overall pick. So, I mean, I'm interested to see what will happen.
Yeah. It's gonna be exciting. I haven't drafted, I don't think, ever from the fourth position. I've drafted first, I've drafted 10, 11, 12 a bunch of times.
Yeah, I've never gone really in the middle.
I feel like one year maybe I was like 6 or 7, but I've never been fourth. So it's gonna be something new for me. It's gonna be fun. And I'm looking forward to it.
I'll give a shout out to Dave, or a mention for Dave. Dave got the 12th spot, the final spot in our draft. So I'm looking to vulture some of his picks right before, and I'm sure he's going to vulture a couple of mine since he has the turnaround pick. But yeah, should be exciting. I can't wait to actually start drafting.
Yeah. Anyways, so getting into our pop culture segment, I watched all of Loki today.
Oh,
I gotta say it was very well done, but story was a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. A lot of people said it was their favorite of the new Marvel series. It's not mine. I think it's maybe my second.
I don't know. It's the only one I've seen of the new stuff.
Okay.
And it just felt like it was the same story that's been told so many times. And I don't know if they went with that kind of basic story just to open up the universe a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil anything, but at the end, they make it very obvious that there's going to be a second season. And the way that they do it really opens up the show to have a lot of possibilities. It's similar to the strategy that the new Star Trek movies took, where they sort of have like the Captain Kirk crew in an alternate universe, so that you know they can sort of redo whatever, and it's technically not the same Kirk. Yeah. So they did a strategy like that, and I think season 2 will likely be a lot better.
Did they mention that there would be a second season? Because I'm not worried, but I'm guessing that this might set up for the movies.
Oh, like maybe. Maybe. But I just had that feeling that, you know, but at the end of it, you were like, oh, okay, we'll be rolling into season 2 with this new plot line.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed it's a good watch. I enjoyed watching it. If you like, I guess he's like an anti-hero. If you like anti-heroes, he does a good job. And there's some pretty funny parts. I didn't know Owen Wilson was in it.
Oh,
he's I really enjoyed his character. It was well done.
Yeah. Definitely the role was made for him. He played it very well. Yeah. For me, I would I didn't go see it yet, but apparently the new Suicide Squad movie is much better.
Suicide Squad.
Is it?
Because the joke is that they're just gonna add to the start of all the sequels. Because I believe the first movie was called the first movie was called Suicide Squad, and this one's called The Suicide Squad.
Okay, but apparently it's much better than the first one, and it's what the first one should have been. Mm-hmm. I was worried that this one would be worse because, and there's a lot of characters and character development. I was worried that they put too many characters in and therefore couldn't develop anyone. But apparently, from the friends that have already seen it, they said they were super happy and impressed with it. So I'm gonna try and catch it in a theater near me. Socially distanced.
Yeah. What does Dave normally say here? He says something like, "See you next time."
Oh,
catch you later. I don't know. I feel like I've heard it so many times. I have no idea what he says.
I don't know. The end of the episode, I recall more of you and myself interrupting him than what he actually says. So I mean, I just usually tune him out until he says, "See you next time," and then I go.
Oh, it's definitely a see you next time. Yeah. So let's do. We'll just do. Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
we'll see you next time.
All right. Are you gonna say it again, or
you want to say it again? Oh yeah. No, that was the real sign up. Okay. I'll do it again. That was like a warm up.
Okay.
Now I've forgotten what it is. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.